There are some Pokemon abilities which never see real competitive use. A lot of them are just unviable to run, while others are poor victims of bad circumstances. We've seen more and more held items introduced that mimic the effects of abilities. Some recent ones like Loaded Dice, Covert Cloak, and Clear Amulet show how good these effects can be on different Pokemon. It made me think, some of the abilities that see virtually zero play due to their distribution or lack of synergy with the user would be great if converted into a held item. So I gathered the best of the bunch, created new items, and examples of which Pokemon would love to run these competitively. First is Slow Start. Slow Start is the infamously bad former signature ability of Regigigas that severely holds it back from good competitive play. It halves the user's speed and attack stats for 5 turns every time they hit the field. While this is terrible for a physical attacking mon with 100 base speed, its effect would actually be desired on a lot of pivoting and Trick Room Pokemon who want to be as slow as possible with lower attack. The new item, Drowsy Amulet, would mimic the effects of Slow Start, having the holder's attack and speed for 5 turns each time they come in. Pokemon like the Slowbro forms would enjoy being able to move even slower with their pivoting options, being more useful for Chilly Reception Glare and Slowbro than Teleport, which already has negative priority, so this would just be useful in mirror matches. It would also be used on special attacking Trick Room sweepers and can make more Pokemon with middling speed viable inside Trick Room. Cresselia comes to mind. With 85 base speed, it can't get too slow, and holding an Iron Ball to half its speed would take away its immunity to ground. Halving your attack is also beneficial in some situations to reduce any confusion damage and damage from foul play, making it that much better for psychic types like Reuniclus who might also enjoy running this. This item would also be good for Pokemon who want their abilities to activate second, notably weather setting Pokemon. Where I think it might see the most use though is with Trick and Switcheroo to heavily cripple physical attackers. Giving the Slow Start treatment to just about any physical attacker is a death sentence. It's essentially burn and paralysis combined into one, but you don't have the chip damage or the 25% chance not to move. I could definitely see this item having its utility as an offensive and disruptive item. The ability that inspired this list is next in Steadfast. Steadfast is not seen as a good ability by any means. I've actually never seen it in a real competitive battle. Every Pokemon who has it prefers their much more consistently useful abilities, and they even made Mega Mewtwo X carry it, which was definitely a balancing move. If you've never seen it in action, it raises the user's speed by 1 stage whenever they are flinched. Not really useful for these primarily fighting type Pokemon with awesome abilities. But if this was made into a held item, I think it would actually see some solid use in doubles formats. Enter the Determination Band, an item that procs every time the user is flinched and raises their speed by 1 stage. Tired of getting fake out flinched by Daddy Incineroar? Equip this item and make them pay every time they think they can steal your turn. Middling speed Pokemon would love this as it can turn them into the fastest mon on the field. It doesn't get consumed, so it can be procced multiple times, and once your opponent is aware you're holding it, they will second guess using a flinching move against you. I don't see this being overly popular, but it might be nice on Defiant or competitive users who can take advantage of Pokemon with the Fake Out and Intimidate combo. It might need to boost speed by 2 stages to truly be worth it, which is what I think Steadfast should do in the first place, which even opens up the door for flinching your own teammate in rare circumstances, say predicting a double protect on your opponent's side, so you fake out your ally. Wonder Skin is an ability I wish more Pokemon had access to. It is very limited and outclassed by great abilities on pretty much every Pokemon with access. Wonder Skin lowers the accuracy of status moves targeted towards a user to 50%. This would be amazing on bulky support Pokemon who fear being statused, taunted, encored, and more by giving them a pretty good shot at just dodging these moves. The new item Wonder Coat will provide the Wonder Skin effect, making status moves a huge risk to use. Why run a one-time use Mental Herb on your Trick Room or Hazard Setter when you could just dodge 2 to 3 taunts in a row? You have the benefit of dodging Spores, Thunder Waves, stat lowering moves, Prankster boosted moves that would disrupt you, you name it. Unlike Bright Powder, this doesn't do a blanket accuracy drop of all moves, so you'd be hit by attacks at the normal accuracy. Would it get banned as an item for too much RNG fishing? Maybe, but Wonderskin has never been seen as a problem, or found itself even useful enough to be seen on its users, so maybe this would be legal. Curious Medicine is the signature ability of Galarian Slowking. When the Pokemon enters the field, it removes all stat changes from allies. This is an ability that currently just exists, with most of its usage likely from people forgetting to change Slowbro's ability from this to Regenerator. A doubles exclusive ability on a Pokemon who sees very little doubles play and would prefer the Great Regenerator most of the time anyways is quite the waste of a decent concept. The new item Purity Vial will reset ally stat changes when swapped into battle. I was going to name it something like Remedy Herb, but then it would fit more as a one-time consumable. This could be given to a Pokemon you expect not to lead with. If you're up against Intimidate and speed lowering moves, you can swap in your Mon holding a Purity Vial and get rid of any stat drops. You could also use this in combination with strong attacks that lower your stats like Overheat, Close Combat, Draco Meteor, Make It Rain, and more. Say you have your Golden Go out, making it rain, you're at -2, and your opponent thinks they're at a KO range. You swap in your Mon with Purity Vial, Golden Go resets to neutral, and smacks them with a full power Make It Rain or Shadow Ball. It is definitely situational, but something you would build your team around, allowing you to use more moves that lower your own stats. Soundproof was borderline for this list, as it definitely is seen sometimes, and most people regard it as a decent ability. It provides full immunity against sound-based moves. I did rank it number 246 on my ranking every ability in Pokemon series, so it is pretty middle of the pack on the lower end to me. An item I've been wanting for a while are the earmuffs. These will give the holder immunity to all sound-based moves the same way Soundproof does. The current roster of viable Soundproof Pokemon is very small, mostly just Kommo-o, who might even be a beneficiary of this item, being able to run it alongside Bulletproof. If you need to check a certain Pokemon who primarily uses sound moves like Hyper Voice Sylveon or Primarina, you can throw these earmuffs on. It can be used to block Snarl's special attack drops, block Parting Shot pivoting, Boom Burst spam. It also has utility to block phasing from Roar and can be used to your advantage on Perish Song teams, as this is blocked by Soundproof as well, meaning if it comes down to it, you can guarantee your win by using Perish Song in doubles with an ally and stalling with your earmuff wearing Mon. This is a tech I think would see great use in draft leagues where you would know which Mons you'll be up against and can plan the specific counterplay. Sound-based moves are pretty common, but in the case your opponent isn't using any, this just becomes a useless item. The ability Justified raises a user's attack by 1 stage when hit by a dark type attack. The effect itself is pretty decent, but getting it to activate, especially in singles, can be pretty tough and not worth running. This mostly means swapping into a knockoff and losing your item, since the fighting types you would consider running this on aren't attracting many dark type hits. In doubles, you at least have the combo of beat up with a Justified Pokemon to instantly gain a crazy amount of attack. But with the new item, Valor Band, you can equip it onto a Mon and gain an attack boost every time you take a dark type hit. Now, I'm not sure if this would be legal unless the item was changed to only activate when an opposing Pokemon hits you, because imagine this combined with the Rattle ability to instantly give a Pokemon like Granbull or the Dunsparce 2 Dragon Dances worth of boost in VGC matches with beat up and have them one-shot everything. Other than that, it would be pretty broken on pretty much any Fastmon with good physical moves really, if it could be self-proc. Like imagine Zamazenta or Zacian with this item. In singles, this definitely feels balanced, as you can get off a cheeky attack boost even if hit by knockoff, as it would activate before being knocked off like weakness policy does. But from there on, it would mostly act like a deterrent in fear of giving you attack boosts, so you could for once have the advantage on a Sucker Punch mind game. Cloud 9 is an ability that eliminates the effects of weather while the user is active. It is a great way to disrupt weather teams by eliminating their beneficial abilities, power boosts, and overall synergy. But the Pokemon who get this ability are exclusively derps who really have no place in competitive settings that run serious weather teams. If Cloud 9 became an item, let's say the Atmosphere Orb, I have no doubt it would be great in formats dominated by weather. You wouldn't need specific Pokemon who 4 times resist or are immune to rain and sun boosted moves, but instead just give a Pokemon this item. They already made a pretty trash attempt at this with the Utility Umbrella that didn't really catch on as it only affects the holder. The Atmosphere Orb will instead affect the whole field like Cloud9, neutralizing the effects of weather when the holder comes in. This means you can have your specific weather counter ready upon swap, thwarting Swift Swimmers, Chlorophyll abusers, even preventing a Alolan Ninetales from setting up its Aurora Veil or gaining perfectly accurate blizzards. This might actually be too powerful of an item that makes countering weather teams too easy and consistent. So if this was ever to actually be implemented into an item, I could see them instead making it a one-time consumable. Say Forecast or Weather Orb that activates if any weather is active or set and immediately turns it off and consumes the item. This would at least allow it to synergize with unburdened Pokemon like Hawlucha and Sneasler, along with giving the move Recycle more use, since this item would be worth it to have multiple times in a game. Speaking of Cloud9, if you're enjoying this video, I'd be on Cloud9 if you help me get to 20k subscribers by the new year. It would be a great Christmas present, all I'm saying. Suction Cups is an ability we see on very few Pokemon who are a little on the weak side and depend on their other abilities to be somewhat usable. But it has a great effect of preventing phasing from Roar, Dragon Tail, Whirlwind, Circle Throw, and Red Card. While this ability isn't great on any of its actual users, it could definitely see use on setup mons who take a bit to get going. The new item, Anchor, would prevent the opponent from being forcibly swapped out. This would let your cursed Snorlax set up to +6, use rest, and not worry about getting roared out. I don't think phasing moves see quite as much play nowadays, so this item would have been a lot better in previous generations, but there also do exist hazard stack teams with mons like Skarmory who love shuffling your squad around with Whirlwind and racking up chip damage. Being able to counter that with the Anchor item would be extra handy to stop this annoyingness. It's another item I could see being a lot more useful in draft. Say you know your opponent is likely to try and stop your setup with a phasing move. Other than that, I guess you could use it on baton pass teams and anything goes. No! The ability Synchronize is one that started becoming phased out come Generation 5 with hidden abilities introduced. Most Synchronize users now opt to use their much better hidden abilities, while newer Pokemon tend to also have better abilities to run. The effect itself isn't bad. If the user is inflicted by a burn, poison, or paralysis, it will inflict the same status on the Pokemon who caused it. It's definitely less useful since Generation 6, since electric types can no longer be paralyzed, which takes a big part of the utility away. The new item, Affliction Knot, will activate when you're inflicted by poison, burn, or paralysis, and inflict a poison with the same status condition. It can be used on status absorbers like Magikarp Clefable or Marvel Scale Melodic. Side note, I also think the ability should be buffed to include Sleep and Freeze, which is an idea for another time, but if it was, then this item should definitely be a consumable if you're able to swap into Spore users and put them to sleep as well. One of the biggest wasted ability opportunities of all time goes to Palossand's signature Water Compaction ability. This will raise Palossand's defense by 2 stages every time it gets hit by a water attack. This unfortunately doesn't grant a water immunity, and Palossand being weak to water makes it hard to get use out of it, especially when most water type attacks being used hit on the special side. If we were to make this into an item, say Compacted Sand or Sand Vest, we could give non-weak water Pokemon the ability to swap into water type attacks and get a +2 to their defense. Of course it wouldn't come with an immunity, so I don't see it really being anything too strong, but swapping into less threatening water moves for a defense boost could give bulky Pokemon who otherwise struggle with physical defense like Snorlax, Lantern, Florges, and Sylveon a chance to swap in on a Scald, Surf, or Hydro Pump and instantly become really bulky on both sides. This of course would be multi-use and not a terrible consumable like Absorb Bulb or Luminous Moss, although I could see a one-time consumable being a great item if it gave you a water immunity and defense boost the turn it activates. Screen Cleaner is another ability fitting into the underwhelming section. This Mr. Rhyme line exclusive will remove the effects of Reflect, Light Screen, and Auroraville on both sides of the field upon swapping. I don't even know how good this ability really is because no one is using Mr. Rhyme or Galarian Mr. Mime competitively. An ability that counters screen is also very specific. But with the new item Squeegee, you can equip any Pokemon with the ability to remove screens upon entry. This allows less specific counterplay options and formats that have prevalent screen setters like Grimmsnarl or Alolan Ninetales. You wait for them to waste 1 or 2 turns setting them up, and then swap in your screen remover as they try to send out their setup mon to win. Having to give up an item slot for a very potentially useless item would suck, but if you don't see any screens, you at least have that mon as your knockoff absorber. Again, this would be great in draft leagues or certain Smogon tiers where you know there's a good chance of your opponent bringing screens, but such a specific item meant for counterplay will rarely be seriously considered. Battle and Shell Armor protect their users from critical hits. A useful ability, definitely not bad by any means, but more often than not, this ability is passed on for more consistently useful ones. There are some Pokemon who would love to just set up and really only fear a critical hit to break them. That's where the Fitted Armor comes in. This item will prevent the holder from being struck by critical hits. I can see this being used as counterplay against mons like Urshifu to allow them to properly check their fighting stab while severely lowering the damage output of their guaranteed critical hit moves. Toxapex and Clodsire come to mind against both Urshifus, while Intimidate Pokemon like Gyarados and Salamence can make great checks to both Urshifus, and Lando T also provides a good single strike check. Other than this, passive Cosmic powered stored power Pokemon like Sigilyph and Mew could use the Fitted Armor to set up their boosts, use a reliable recovery to stay healthy, and sweep without fear of crits. You can still play around this with Knockoff or Trick, but you also don't know if they're holding this item in the first place unless using a guaranteed crit move. Limber is an ability that prevents paralysis, which is a pretty good thing to have. Looking at the users though, all the competitively successful Pokemon find use in a big part due to their ability. Limber doesn't really see any real usage, even though being paralyzed can be a death sentence for most offensive mons. But if they were to hold a new item, which could either go the route of like a Yoga Band or Rubber Gloves, they could prevent being Thunder Waved by those nasty prankster Pokemon, nuzzled by those Pika clones, or struck by the rare, but not as rare as it should be, Thunderbolt para into full para, among other para methods. I could see this on special attackers who don't care as much about being burned or poisoned. It is a good item concept, but I'm not sure how many sweepers would give up an offensive item in turn for not being able to get paralyzed. Like I could see this on Magikarp Alakazam, but is it really giving up Focus Sash or Life Orb? You would probably just rather swap out in most situations or run a Lumberry for the one-time all status cure while trying to take out the problematic mon. I'm going to finish with one out of left field that could be a banger. This is for the ability Tangled Feet. Tangled Feet doubles a user's evasion stat when confused. Very situational, and only on less than impressive Pokemon, so you are very hard pressed to ever see this in action. I do think it could result in a pretty fun item though, but it would have to be slightly tweaked. When holding the new item Dizzy Berry, a confused Pokemon will consume the berry and have their evasion stat raised by 2 stages. This is very similar, but does differ from the ability slightly. It's sorta for the better though, as the stat increase means it won't wear off once the Pokemon isn't confused. You could use a powerful self-confusing move like Outrage, Petal Dance, or Thrash, and gain a minimized level of evasion after the 2 to 3 rampaging turns. As a berry, it would only have a single use though, so it would be a one and done strategy, only really viable for gimmicks since you are also vulnerable to hitting yourself in confusion. I would imagine as an evasion boosting item, it would likely be banned in Smogon, but it would be funny to try it in doubles with an ally Teeter Dance being able to proc it while confusing the whole field. It's like gambling, but you start with a big house edge. Make this one happen, please. Are there any other bad or unseen abilities you think might actually make great items? Let me know your ideas, buds. What would you name the items, and who do you think would benefit from them? I'm interested to see your takes. If you like this video, just do me a favor and mega punch that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this type of Pokemon content. I'll be keeping it coming regularly. Shout out to my Patreon and YouTube supporters, including Goldbud, Mr. Frank Beans, Bucket Boys, Wario, and Divi. Check my links in the description if you want to support the channel for less than $1. Thanks for watching, buds, and I'll catch you in the next one.